Good morning, everyone. I have my coffee cup ready, my Winnie the Pooh cup, and I am ready to get into this palette. My name is Lauren if you're new here, and if you're not new, you're the best for coming back. Thank you. So what palette am I talking about today? Well, let me put down Pooh and show you. Today we're going to be talking about the Tarte Maneater After Dark palette, and I definitely wavered back and forth over whether or not I needed to get this palette, and I'm glad I did because the pictures do not do it justice. I feel like the pictures online, you were getting kind of a muted sense of what the palette was, but in person, this is what it looks like, and it's way more gorgeous than it looks online. So I'm glad I picked it up. So what is this palette? Let's give a little bit of background on it. So the Tarte Maneater After Dark palette retails for $52. I purchased mine off of Ulta. You can get it off the Tarte website as well. And what's in it? According to the website, these are 24 brand new eyeshadow shades that Tarte is putting out. So that's pretty exciting. And I will tell you my reservations. I was a little nervous that we would run into a lot of duplicate colors with this palette because as you can see, it's pretty neutral. I'm gonna call this a pretty neutral palette. But when I got it in person and I took a look at it, I realized not a lot of duplicates. There's actually quite a bit of variation. Even though you have a lot of browns, they are different. So I was excited to get it and excited to try it out because this kind of looked like a great palette for fall. I'm currently working on my next video, well, coming up. It's coming up in about a week of my top favorite fall palettes. And when I got this one, I was like, could this be a contender? Possibly, depending on how it performs. But I really did think it was beautiful. So I don't think I'm gonna swatch the whole palette. I don't think I have enough arms for that. But I did want to do a little bit of spot swatching just to get an idea. So I think I'm gonna swatch these two rows right here because those are the ones that are kind of calling my name and I want to see how they perform. So we're just gonna go down and swatch those two and just take a look. So let's get into it. Okay, first we have Lust, which is very light mauve pink. So hopefully you can see that on my arm. Heartbreaker. Fantasy. You know I had to swatch this green. Oh, okay. And Intense. Okay, I went over them a couple more times because my swatches were a little bit crooked, but that's the first row that we're gonna swatch. Then we have Mischievous. Desire. Oh, that one is very light. It's a mustard yellow, but having a hard time picking up pigment. Wild at Heart. And Temptress. So those are the two rows that we're going to be swatching today, just to get a little bit of an overview of how the shades perform. So I don't want to make any assumptions off of the swatches we just did, but I will say, swatch-wise, the mattes are a little bit lacking in pigment, while the shimmers are gorgeous. Shimmers, actually, I'm pleasantly surprised at. So let's do a look. Let's do two different looks on one face. I'm going to start by bringing out my Paint Pot by MAC, and this is in the color Bare Study. And I've been bringing this one out quite a bit lately as my eyeshadow primer. It's so good. MAC Classic. And as you can see, the rest of my face is already done, so fingers crossed. There's not a ton of fallout on this because I don't want to redo my face. I'm lazy. Okay, actually, I think what we're gonna do, let's just do a more muted look on the first eye. We're gonna start with Lust, and we're gonna put that all over the upper lid. And this is definitely a very light pinky toned color. It's going on very nicely. If you hear dogs, those are not my dogs. Those are coming from outside. My neighbors have a couple dogs and they're very, very yelly. They like to have a good time. Party animals next door. So Okay, that actually went on really nice. I was, again, like, you can't trust swatches because the way that it swatched on my arm, which was very light and very hard to see, it's not the way it performed on my eye. Went on smoothly, blended out really nice. I like it. Okay, next, I am kind of feeling the fall colors. Okay, we're gonna go into Mischievous, and I'm gonna go ahead and put that on the outer ends of my eyes and kind of fluff that out just a little bit. I like the orangey color, and it was another one where I was like, oh, I'm not quite sure how this is performing when I did swatches. And it is definitely a lighter orange. It's pretty though. And you know what, this palette, when I saw it, I'm like, okay, everyone's ready for fall, right? Like, this palette just looks like fall. It was a nice neutral palette. I mean, not like I don't have enough nice neutral palettes, but this one just, I don't know, it caught my attention. I was curious about it. Okay, so that went on nicely. Again, that was the color Mischievous. That went on, there's no patchiness, no fallout, so I'm happy. Next, I think I'm going to go into a darker color and blend that into the ends of my eyes. Let's go into Alluring right here. I do want to say there is a bit of kick up in the pans. That never bothers me, but you may want to just tap your brush so that you're not getting any on your face. Okay, and I'm just like blending this into the outer corners. Patting it in and then blending it out. And that way we're just kind of darkening up the outer corner over there. We don't want to hide anything. We're not trying to cover up the color Mischievous, that pretty pumpkin-y color. We're just trying to intensify the look just a little bit. Somebody made a comment. They were super rude. I was like, I don't know what is happening. I don't know who hurt you, but I'm blocking you. It was the first person I ever blocked. But they were like, you're using your fingers to clean up the look. If you were good, you wouldn't have to do that. And it's like, why do you care? Like, why do you care what other people do? I just like to have fun with makeup. I've never said I was a makeup artist. I just love makeup and I just want to talk about it. So that's why we're here. But I do like how that color went on. I feel like it was nice because it didn't come on overly pigmented. I could build it up a little bit and that's kind of control what I wanted the look to be. Okay, next let's go into, like, we have to do something gold. Let's go into Sundown. I'm gonna go ahead and put that color in the inner corner of my eye. I'm gonna try to use my finger. It's not picking up very well on that brush. Oh, okay, that's better. Oops, okay, I got a little fallout with that color, but this one is definitely a chunkier shimmer. So you have some larger chunks of glitter in it. Oh, but that's nice. I like that. Okay. Lastly, what I want to do for this eye is, I think I'm going to go into, no, that's going to be too dark. We're going to do a little bit of a lighter look. So let's go into Enamored over here on the end, and I'm going to go ahead and put that underneath my waterline. I think that will complement this look. Okay, that one is actually really light. That might be a little bit too much like my skin tone. So I'm gonna go back into Lust and I'm gonna go ahead and put that one under and see if that shows up a little bit better. Oh yeah, okay. It's a little bit more mauve-y, so it's showing up a little bit better on my skin. Okay, I'm also, I'm gonna go back into Alluring. I'm and bring that color up, that dark brown, just a little more, and fluff it out. Bring it down a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit when I put on my eyeliner and my mascara. I'm just gonna take my beauty blender and kind of pat around the edges to round those out because they're a little bit overly fluffed, which is totally okay. Again, we're just playing around. But my first thoughts on this palette so far, everything is performing really nice. The only one that I didn't love was probably that color Sundown because it is a chunkier glitter than I prefer. I like my glitters to be a little more finely milled. And I could tell just by the ones that have the animal prints on them, those ones are much more finely milled. Just by swatching them, you can feel that they have less of that chunky glitter in them. So we're gonna wait and do the mascara and eyeliner at the end, and we're gonna do something else on the other eye, just to play around with this palette, because that's what we're here for, just to play around. One thing I love about this primer is you really don't have to wait for it to dry down. It's done. Okay, let's do a little more of a dramatic look. Let's go into Desire. That's another one that swatched a little funky, so I'm curious to see how it performs on the eyes. I never really play with yellow, let alone mustard yellow. Oh wow, okay. It's pretty. Yellow intimidates me, I don't know why. It's an intimidating color. Oh, but look how pretty that one's going on. Okay, it's blending out really nicely. And I think this color is the perfect representation as to when I say you can't always trust swatches, because I feel like the swatches, you know, they were a little bit chunky. They're a little bit patchy, which again, you're doing it on dry skin. You're doing it, I have a little bit of hair on my arm, so it's totally different texture. So you can't really fully trust what you're gonna get when you do swatches like that. But that was nice, that was really nice. Okay, next, might as well just go into Moody, right? Put that in the outer corner. Okay, this one's going on pretty nice. I'm patting it in. It's not as dark as I want it. I feel like it's coming off a little lighter than what I want. I'm gonna take that into the middle. That's a really pretty color by itself, and it's definitely not as dark as it looks in the pan. I'm trying to build it up a little bit, but it doesn't seem to want to get a whole lot darker. I think that's what we're gonna get. That is pretty. It's a very pretty color. It goes super well with that yellow. Okay. I think what I want to do is I want to go into Fantasy, and I want to put that in the middle of my lid and kind of draw it out to the ends. We're being a little different today. Sometimes it's hard. You just get like comfortable in your makeup routines and it's hard to switch things up. Okay, that is going on pretty light too. Trying to dig my brush and do it a little more. Oh, okay, it's kind of, there we go. Okay, you have to dig your brush in a little bit. Ah, went too high. Okay, I did have to dig my brush a little harder into that color to get the full impact, but once I did, it went on really nicely. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do for my last color, second to last color, is go into Heartbreaker, put that in the inner corner of my eye. Because I did really like how that one swatched. We haven't used one of these animal print colors yet. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of awesome. Woo! Okay, that was impactful. Last, what I want to do is I'm going to go into Passion, and I'm going to go ahead and put that underneath my waterline. And I'm going to fluff it out a little bit so it's not such a harsh line. There we go. I will say I did get a little bit of fallout with the purple color Moody. And as you can see, it's quite a bit of kick up in the pan. So again, I would say just pat your brush off, you know, just tap when you are using this palette to avoid any fallout. And don't do your base first like I did. I'm gonna go ahead and put on some eyeliner, lashes, and then let's talk about our overall thoughts on this palette. Okay, so these are the two final looks. What do we think? Let's kind of get a little bit up closer so you can see this. I'm gonna be honest, I am pleasantly surprised by how everything turned out. I wasn't really sure what we would be getting with this palette. Again, I saw a more neutral leaning palette and Tarte's eyeshadow formula, not the most pigmented, which is normally what I go for, but I was hoping that it would perform well, and I would have to say that it did. Now, I would say that I was most surprised by how well the mattes performed. They were gorgeous. The swatches were a little bit patchy, which made me a little bit worried, but after putting them on my eyelids and blending them out, they worked so well. They blended out amazingly. The pigment is just what I want in my mattes, and it just turned out really well. I was really happy about those. Now, in terms of the shimmers, these ones with the animal print is definitely where you're gonna get your money's worth, because wow, the power that they give is amazing. Absolutely obsessed with them. Now, the other shimmers, I feel like you have to work a little harder at. So for example, Sundown and Fantasy, I definitely had to dig my brush into those pans in order to really get the full effect of the color. I would say even using my finger for Sundown did help quite a bit versus picking it up on my brush. There are some shimmers that just don't pick up as well on brushes, like I found in my experience. But once they go on, they are pretty. They are slightly more sheer, I would say, than what you would get with the animal print ones. But I think that would work best if you're looking for a more neutral everyday look versus something that is very shimmery and very powy, which luckily the ones with the animal print do give you. Now, I did experience a little bit of fallout with some of the colors, specifically Moody, but I would say as long as you're tapping your brush out, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You're going to be able to brush it off your face pretty easily if it gets on there, and it wasn't a lot of fallout. It was a relatively small amount, so it wasn't something where I would be worried that the eyeshadows were going to be too dry and crumbly on my face. Sometimes if there's too much fallout, I worry that the eyeshadows themselves are a little too dry and may actually expire sooner than later. But not worried about that with this palette at all. Now, is it worth $52? I would say that if you're looking for a good neutral palette, then you're gonna find that in this palette. The Maneater palette performed well. I'm really happy with both looks that I did, and I think I'm gonna get quite a bit of use out of this during the fall. Now, I will say it is a neutral palette, so if you're looking for something with more color, you're not gonna find that in this. And while the mattes did perform well, I would say they do appear just a little bit lighter than they do in the pans. So specifically, Moody was the one where I saw that it wasn't quite as bright on my eye as it is in the pan. Alluring over here, I was able to build up, but I don't think you're gonna be able to say the same thing for all the mattes in here, specifically Moody, but I do know that purples are harder to formulate. So I'm really happy I got a chance to try out this palette. I really enjoy this. I think this is gonna be a great fall palette, and you know what? It's gonna be great for any season because it has all that variety of colors in there, and I'm happy we got to try it out on camera and do a couple looks. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance yet, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel. It really helps. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye!